Welcome,
Alright.
ladies and gentlemen, to episode 2 of Got Your Trade, the podcast where we cover sports, gaming, stocks, whatever it is, we've got your trade. I'm joined by my co host and best friend, Rocky B Trades, aka Vincent. And today is, you could call it a championship episode, I guess. I mean, a lot of a lot of championships went down in the NBA. We've got our new 2023 NBA champions. We've got our 2023 Stanley Cup champions, and starting tomorrow, we will have COD Champs 2023 kicking off in Vegas. So, to start things off here, man. Uh, I mean, NBA Finals. First thoughts. I mean, did you think that 5 games was that pretty much expected from our conversation from last week after Game One? Do you think it ended as expected?
I think it did. And first off, welcome to Got Your Trade, guys. Happy to be back here for episode 2. But yeah, I think it. I mean, I said Denver in 5. I don't think that was a hot take or anything. They just had the most talent. I mean, that's really what it came down to. Their size is
What's
unique. They
good,
obviously the
chat?
best player by a mile. And I think Jimmy was just exhausted from the last couple series. He's had to give that team everything, and just for them to even make it to the finals was insane because there was a chance they wouldn't even make it to the playoffs if they didn't even win those playing games. So I think Denver was the right team to win this, and very well deserved. I think they're building something really special, and this might be the end of like the super team, and maybe more so going back to the basics of drafting and developing your players to really build that strong core and that foundation for even a potential dynasty. I mean, I think Denver has all the makings to do it. The best player, he doesn't get hurt. He's very selfless. He's young. Jamal's young. Michael Porter's young. But that was crazy. It wasn't even that close, and I don't even think Denver really played their best, especially in Game 5. It was very low scoring, and they still came out with a victory when needed at home. So crazy to see, but very well deserved. And congrats to Denver for their first championship. I think that was their first one, and it was a longer drought than when Cleveland had won in 2016. Detroit has like a 40-year drought with no championships, or something like that. So for Denver to finally get one, it's pretty awesome. I have some friends that are Denver fans,
That's
and
awesome.
it's very well deserved. But what's your take on the finals? How it played out, and was it what you expected?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I see my boy Nick King up in here in the chat. Just wanted to shout him out, say what's up.
What's
Uh,
good?
uh, I mean, I actually feel kind of intelligent. I'm not gonna lie because after Game One, we had our conversation, predicting the rest of the series, and we both said, Denver's gonna finish this thing out. It's not gonna be a long series, maybe 6 if we're lucky, but we both pretty much said it's either gonna be a sweep or 5. But I remember I said, Denver won Game One. I said Miami's gonna go ahead and be scrappy and win Game Two, and they did. But then Denver, went and finished out the series. I think you hit the nail on the head with the whole Jimmy Butler was gassed. I mean, the dude had to play to superhuman levels just to get them into the actual playoffs. Because like Vincent said, let's not forget they started these playoffs in the play-in tournament, and they lost their first matchup against the Atlanta Hawks. Got dropped down to play, I believe it was the Chicago Bulls or Toronto Raptors. It was one of those two. Uh, Beat them, got into the playoffs against the number 1 seed, the Milwaukee Bucks. Made quick work of them, which was a shock. But then again, Giannis had injuries, and it was a weird series. And Chris Middleton made it very clear that, like, in the list of number 2 options across the league, he's the bottom tier of that.
Yeah.
A lot of people obviously gave Jaylen Brown shit after the Eastern Conference Finals. Rightfully so. It was a weak series for him. But I mean, Chris Middleton was an extra level of bad when he needed to be playing at his best. Uh, and then the Heat were able to go on. They play this New York Knicks in the semifinal or the Eastern semifinal, and I mean, it was a really good run for the Knicks. Don't get me wrong. They have a really talented, really young team. Um, but you knew that Jimmy Butler, with how he was playing, he was going to get them through that series. And that's what he did. I believe they won it in six. And then Celtic series, I think the fact that it went 7 games isn't necessarily a shock because it's two very evenly matched teams. But obviously, the Heat were up 3-0. Boston brought it all the way back to a game 7, which was why it was more of a surprise. But like you said, like Jimmy Butler at that point, because he even started kind of fizzling out towards the end of that Celtics series. Um, and then I mean, by the time the finals rolled around, he couldn't give those performances that they needed. And then on top of that, you look at the role players, and as a Celtics fan, this hurts my heart to look at. But you look at the 3 guys who probably you could credit the Heat with the win in the Eastern Conference Finals: Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, and then I mean Max Strus or Duncan Robinson. You kind of interchange either of those guys in that third spot. But those 4 guys, let's say, uh, I mean, they were shooting the freaking lights out against Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. Caleb Martin, I think, dropped like 27 in Game 7.
Yeah,
Should
that
have
was
you
crazy.
he
Yeah,
arguably should have been the Eastern Conference Finals
yeah,
MVP.
yeah. He should have.
Um,
Hmm.
but they gave it to Butler, which is fine. And then they go into the finals, and I don't know if it was they just weren't ready for the moment, or if Denver was a better matchup defensively against those guys. Giannis 2024 MVP.
Isaac, that's my boy.
I
He's a
don't
Milwaukee
know.
fan.
He's a Milwaukee fan. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. It's like Daniel. Uh,
yeah,
I don't know, man. 2020. I don't know how you don't give it to anyone but Jokic at this. The fact that he didn't get it this year was kind of criminal.
yeah. That was robbery.
But he went and got the one that matters. He got the Finals MVP.
Yeah.
Uh, and I saw something, Vincent. I want to talk to you about this. So people are saying with all that Jokic has been able to accomplish up until this point in his career, the Finals MVP, winning the Finals. He's got, I believe, 2 regular season MVPs,
Yeah.
All Star appearances. All
Yeah.
that. People are saying that he's already potentially the most accomplished big man in the league. Where do you think he falls? I mean, obviously, it's really hard to compare him to a guy like Bill Russell and you know Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, some of these guys are way up there. Like it'd be very hard
Yeah.
to surpass them. But when you look at some of the other
Definitely.
great bigs, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Hakeem Olajuwon, uh, David Robinson. I mean, where do you think Nikola Jokic kind of falls in line with those guys?
Yeah, I would say he's not the most accomplished big man. I mean, he'd have to win a few more championships, but I would say, with that one finals win, I mean, he's over guys like, I would say he's probably top 20 all time, obviously towards the bottom of that list because he's still pretty young. I mean, he's only like 27 and basically entering his prime, but, I'd put him over guys like probably Karl Malone, um, put him over guys like he's definitely behind Tim Duncan, Kareem. He's not in that stratosphere yet, but I have him ahead of like Dirk, like
Yeah.
maybe a Charles Barkley, CP3, like those guys all time. Very good careers, just either didn't get rings or only one ring or so, and they don't have the MVPs or anything to back that up. But I mean, his game is just very unique. It's really it's not the most pleasing to watch, but he's just so efficient, and he's one of those guys where it's like when he gets those stats, he's not even trying to stat pad. He literally just does what it takes to win. And he has this
Right.
one quote from like 2014, and I saw it all over. But it was like when he was drafted, he was like, he just plays the game how it comes to him. Like he even says like when I need to score, I'm gonna score. Like when I get double team, I'm gonna pass the ball. Basically, just doing all the little things the right way. I think that's what really separates him. And I think he could really do this for a long time, and definitely catch those all-time greats. I'll probably have him as like a maybe like the sixth or seventh best center all time, but like a top 20 player all time. I mean, I'd have Shaq, Kareem, Wilt, Bill, uh, Duncan over him, but he's creeping his way up there, and
For
this
sure.
finals win was big for him. So yeah,
Yeah,
they got
so
something special.
directing things to the chat here for a second. First of all, Nick said Hopkins to the Pats. I know Hopkins is meeting with the Patriots, and also this is unrelated to the NBA Finals, but
All
I know
good.
he's meeting with the Patriots. If you're lying and trying to get me to get hyped that they signed him and they haven't yet, I'm gonna be pretty mad about that. So I'm gonna need someone to confirm whether that's actual. You're lying. Yeah. Okay. I figured. Your friend Isaac said he wants us to give our uh, division standing projections for each division for the NFL. So I think after we cover uh, NBA, I mean, if you feel like we're good with
Sure.
the finals, I mean, I don't think there's much more to say. That man Jokic is just, I
He's
mean,
him.
it's not sexy how he plays, like you said, but
Yeah.
it gets the job done. He gets hella stats.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I think, and I see that Isaac, you said Giannis and Joker same accolades, but Giannis has a Defensive Player of the Year award.
That's true.
I
That's
mean,
true.
I think Giannis is a hell of a player. Don't get me wrong, but like if we're talking purely like who's a better basketball player, it's Nikola Jokic, and it's not close. Obviously, Giannis is just a freaking monster, a tank, and that man can, get himself into the paint and whatnot. But Jokic, I mean, this dude's pulling up from the logo. He's getting
Yeah, he's
inside,
dirty
hitting
money.
hook shots. I mean,
Yeah.
the dude is insane. And then he's getting triple doubles every game. Like, it's
Yeah.
insane. Oh boy, the Giannis meat riders are in the chat.
I would
Oh
say, I
god.
mean, Giannis is also up there too. Different style, but he's way better on defense. He's way more like obviously his body is like he's jacked. I mean, different style of game. I mean, he can't shoot as well as Joker, but maybe not even facilitate as much. But like the defense though and the rebounding, best of the best. I mean, he's unstoppable in the paint. He's guaranteed like 30 and 12 a night, and then Joker's also guaranteed that just a little different way. So I think they're both generational players. I mean, the NBA is in bright hands, but it's like the 3 to 5 best players right now. Like three of them are at least European. I mean, Luca,
Yep.
Giannis, and Joker. They're top five, and then you want to throw in Tatum or whoever else, AD, LeBron, Curry. Yeah, like those guys. Well, Curry. Those guys are LeBron. They're getting towards the end of their career, so
Right.
you know.
No, but I think the
Um,
NBA. I mean, for a while there, it was scary when things faded out. When like that whole generation of like Tim Duncan, Garnett, uh, Kobe Bryant, like when all those guys kind of, and rest in peace by the way, but like when all those guys like were retired and out of the league, there was a little bit there where it was like we don't really know who's gonna take control. Like LeBron's still in the league and stuff, and the Warriors had their dynasty team and whatnot. But when you look at the league now, you got like you said, Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, Luca, Tatum. Like the league is in good hands. There's a lot of
yeah,
talent, and it's not all like on one team. It's spread out, and I think seeing a team again like the Denver Nuggets go and capture their very first title. Uh, I think it's a testament to you don't have to be the big market team to have success, and you don't have to go and like bring in a ton of big money free agents. They built that team.
yeah,
Murray,
yeah.
Jokic, MPJ.
Hmm.
The only guy they really traded for or brought in was
Like Aaron
Kentavious
Gordon.
Caldwell Pope and Aaron Gordon. Yeah, so I mean, and those guys were, they fill roles, they fit pieces.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that, and obviously, I mean, the Celtics are a team that for the most part is homegrown. Uh, Giannis and the Bucks, they're, him and Middleton are both guys from the Bucks. Have been
Yeah.
playing there their whole career. It's cool to see that, because for a while we had that, like, everyone had to form a what do you call it, a super team or whatever, and you're bringing in all these guys from free agency all over the place, and it's cool to see that these teams are able to build from within. Um, but
Yeah.
do you want to do you want to talk NHL, or do you want to do the NFL stuff? Do you want to get that out of the way?
Whatever you want. I
Yeah,
don't. We can go ahead and talk NFL, but yeah, just congrats to the Las Vegas. Was it the Golden
Golden
Knights?
Knights, yes sir.
That's pretty cool. I mean, they're a new team, right? They haven't been around
Yep.
for how
I was
long have
gonna
they been
say
around?
they've been around. First season was 2017, and they
Wow.
actually, funny enough, made the Stanley Cup in their very first season. They
That's
lost it
nuts.
to Washington at the time, uh, but that was insane. A team that had to do an entry draft, and they just got like the greatest entry draft ever in terms of talent that was available. Uh, but they've been a very competitive team every year that they've been in the NHL, um, and to come out and win the Stanley Cup against another. I mean, South Florida. You got to feel bad for them in a way. They had two teams that going into the playoffs, you expected nothing. They were both eighth seeds, uh, and then they both make a hell of a run, beat the top teams essentially to make the finals in their respective sports, uh, and both kind of run out of gas, if you will.
Yeah.
It was definitely a situation where, yeah, Kachuk ran out of gas for the Florida Panthers. Their goalie wasn't making the same stops he was in the other series. Um, but it's kind of funny to see Jack Eichel get a ring before Connor McDavid in the NHL, because Connor McDavid's like the league's wonder child. They both were drafted the same year, one and two. And Eichel's had a little bit of a different journey since his time in the league, because, I mean, he went from he was drafted by the Buffalo Sabres. Things went to shit over there. He gets traded for pretty much nothing to Vegas, and in his first full season with the team, they go and win the Stanley Cup. So that's pretty much all there is to say about that. Um, it's a hell of a story, just seeing a team build up so soon and be able to have this level of success. Uh, and it was also cool to see the newest franchise, the Seattle Kraken. I mean, they were a game seven away from making it to the Western Conference Finals,
Hmm.
and their first season was last year. So it's cool to see that these, in the NHL, these teams don't take a long time to start competing.
Yeah.
But shout out Vegas, shout out Denver Nuggets, especially the owner, Stan Kroenke or
Oh
Kroenke, however you
yeah.
say that. The
Yeah.
dude has now won championships with the Rams, the some team in professional lacrosse, the Colorado Avalanche, and now the Denver Nuggets, all within a
Crazy.
calendar year, if you will. It's insane the teams that he owns and the success that they're having.
Yeah.
Uh, but all right, so we actually weren't prepared to do this, but we'll go ahead and take a look at NFL division standing projections. All right, I need to pull up the NFL team. Like, I always forget the freaking divisions. I really do. Um, Other than, like,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Well, here we go. So we'll start AFC East, and then NFC East, and we'll go down from there. So, all right, I'll let you start with the AFC East, Vincent. Obviously, I'm biased as a Patriots fan. Uh, I think I'll let you start with this one.
I'm gonna go ahead, and I know the heavy favorite. Well, not heavy favorite at this point. It's probably Buffalo, but really this division could be a coin flip. I mean, you got Rodgers here now. You got Jalen Ramsey now. Um, Probably a hot. I don't know how a hot take. I think I'm gonna go Miami on this one. Um, I just think their roster is really complete, and I think Buffalo's gonna pull back a little bit. They just don't know how to run the ball for some reason. Their O line, they're very too Josh Allen reliant. Diggs seems unhappy this
I was gonna
offseason.
say that whole
Um,
situation's weird, bro. I don't know what's
yeah,
going on with
like
that.
I don't have a strong lean. I mean, if the Patriots get D-Hop, you could even put them for at least the second seed, maybe. I mean, you could literally do a coin flip on any team.
Yep.
I'm just gonna go with Miami just because I think as long as Tua can stay healthy, there's potential Dalvin Cook could go there. I mean, on paper, that team is extremely talented, young. They've got Jalen Ramsey, that coach I believe in. So. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Miami. How about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, I think even at the moment, it's a coin flip. You go and add DeAndre Hopkins and potentially Dalvin Cook into the division. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a nightmare division. Like, the
yeah,
fact that the fourth seed would probably be the first seed in most other divisions is going to be truthful for this year. Um, I think all four of them, or let me rephrase. I think the Bills regressed. I think
yeah.
they got a little worse this offseason.
I think so.
And especially with all the turmoil with Stephon Diggs, that's gonna be a big thing to keep an eye on. Whereas the Pats, the Dolphins, and the Jets all got better.
Yeah.
Player wise, like personnel wise, obviously the Patriots no longer have their experimental garbage Matt Patricia
Mhm.
running the offense. They've got an actual coordinator in Bill O'Brien, um, who's been there before and had success. Uh, I mean, the AFC East really is a hard one to pick, but I think especially if they go and add Dalvin Cook, they're already such a great running team. But if they go and get him, I think you're right. I think Miami's probably the team I'd pick to win that division.
Yeah. And then just like one quick thing to note, the Dolphins every time they were playing the Bills, I mean, the coach Mike McDaniel, I think out coached Sean McDermott because Miami would keep it close even if they didn't have Tua. I mean,
Yep.
Skylar Thompson, they almost won
Yeah, they
that
almost won
game.
that freaking playoff game.
Like,
Yeah.
I just think the coaching gap is there. They're more balanced and, I think better coach. I think this McDermott guy could be out the door soon because you need an offensive coach, I think, nowadays. And I think Buffalo, they're just missing something. They just can't run. But I guess we'll go to the next division. We got the AFC North. So who do you
Yep.
have winning that division?
I mean, I feel like the AFC North. It's very easy to say
Yeah.
Cincinnati Bengals as long,
Yeah.
like, and again, I don't think we have to constantly keep reminding y'all, like, assuming health, because of course, if a guy like Joe Burrow goes and tears his ACL again, that changes everything. But going off of what we assume, I think it's pretty obvious the Bengals are still very much the team to beat in that division. Uh, the Ravens, Lamar Jackson back on board, but like Odell is their number one option. You don't know what to
Mm,
expect with him. He just missed the entire season.
yeah.
Uh, the Steelers have great defense. They've got good receivers. I think they're just Kenny Pickett is young. He's going into his second year. Uh, don't know what to expect there. And then I, I don't really know what to say about the Browns. I mean, Deshaun. Yeah, I know they have Deshaun Watson, uh, but I just don't. I don't see them being as competitive. Like I don't see them being a real threat to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, just keep it simple. They got Joe Burrow, second best quarterback in the league. He's amazing, and he's always there compared to like a Lamar. Um, Cleveland, I think, is going to be better than most people think. I mean, they added like Elijah Moore in the offseason. I think that's a nice
Mm.
pickup. Deshaun is probably due for some positive regression. You would think. I mean, based on his contract, historically who he was as a player. Too much dysfunction though in Cleveland, so Cincy is probably gonna win that.
Yeah.
So next up we have the AFC South. I think this one's also pretty easy, but who we thinking Jacksonville?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Hopkins, he did visit with the Titans. If he goes there and either Tannehill returns to being a good quarterback or Will Levis takes over or Malik Willis even, whoever it is that takes
Yeah.
over, Derrick Henry's going to do his thing, but like the Colts,
Yeah.
I think they'll have some fun moments. I think that quarterback's going to actually be pretty solid for them. Anthony Richardson. Uh, Texans, I mean, they did get the number 1 and number 2 overall pick, which was really cool to see. But yeah, I think the Jaguars are pretty easy to nail down as the favorite to win that division.
Yeah, another one. It all comes down to quarterback. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is definitely the most talented and well-established quarterback in that division. So I think that's pretty easy. And I also like Doug Peterson, former Eagles coach. He's good
Yep,
at what he does.
he
They're
is.
gonna get Calvin Ridley back. I mean, they're gonna be stacked, low key.
He's looking good. I mean, I know it's just OTAs and
Yeah,
mini camp and all that, but he's looking good so far. I will say that.
yeah. And then AFC West. I mean, Kansas City.
I was gonna say Kansas City.
They just, yeah. No, we don't have to talk about that.
No.
Um, and then, all right. So now let's go to the NFC. The NFC could be more of a coin flip, I guess you could say, in this division. But starting out with the NFC East, I think you know my answer. I'm gonna go with Philly to come back. I'm not, obviously Dallas is always a threat just because they do have a lot of talent. I just don't really believe in Dak Prescott nor their coach.
Yeah.
I'm not trusting Daniel Jones at all. And then the Commander should be 2 free wins a year with Sam Howell. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I'm right there with you. We don't have to talk long about the NFC East.
yeah,
It's always a competitive division, whether all the teams are
yeah,
bad or some of them are
yeah.
good or
That's
whatever.
true.
They always just seem to always compete with each other. I think you don't got to worry about Washington.
Yeah.
Um, the Giants, it really depends on what the hell's going on with Saquon. If he's not on the
Oh
field,
yeah.
you're not worrying
Oh,
about them one bit.
definitely.
Dallas, I mean, they have Dak, they have CD Lamb. They don't have Ezekiel Elliott anymore, but he was pretty much a non-factor for them by last season, anyways. I think the Eagles are a pretty safe bet considering how they drafted last year and this year. Jalen Hurts, getting him locked up, and the receiver talent that y'all have. Lost Miles Sanders, but you were already pretty much running back by committee last season, anyways. So I think Eagles are a safe bet for the NFC East.
Agreed, agreed. So now we have the NFC North. Now this is one
This
where it
is the
could be a
biggest
coin
what the
flip.
fuck.
Yeah, this could be a coin flip. I guess I'll go first, but I think I'm gonna go with. Could really make an argument for every team. I would say I'm gonna go with Detroit. I think Jared Goff is just really steady and underrated. I really like their coach, and it seems like every year they get better. They kind of remind me of like a Denver Nuggets in the sense that the coach, like maybe in the first couple seasons he wasn't great, but eventually every year the team got better. I feel like Detroit is kind of on that path as well. Um, you know, they got some weapons. You got David Montgomery, you drafted a running back. Very great O line, great coach. So I think Detroit is probably going to win this, but again, you can really make the argument for anybody in this division. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Packers are probably the safest bet to say they're going to be the worst, just because you have no idea what to expect with Jordan Love. Uh, but the other three teams, I would say the Vikings are the safest bet to say that they'll finish first in that division, just because they never make noise come playoff time. But in the regular season, Kirk Cousins is a solid quarterback. He's still got Justin Jefferson to work with. Uh, Taking Dalvin Cook out of that offense, I think they're going to regret it a lot because I mean, what's their next option after that is Alexander Madison, I think, or something like that. Like he's I don't know what to expect from him as a primary running back and not as like the third down guy. Um,
Yeah.
I think the Lions will be the second best. Like I think it's gonna come down between the Lions and the Vikings. um, which is
Yeah.
really weird to say. Uh, that the Lions could win that division. It just still doesn't feel right, just for all the years they've been bad. But Dan Campbell's done a hell of a job coaching that team. He really
Yeah.
turned Jared Goff around last season. Goff had a very solid year after being traded away from uh, the Los Angeles Rams. Like you said, they brought in David Montgomery. They drafted another running back. Um, I think that the Lions are going to be a good team. And then the Bears, they got DJ Moore, which was obviously a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Justin Fields finally has like an actual receiver to work with.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't know what to expect with Justin Fields still.
Yeah.
He had that
Better
one game
thrower.
last year against New England where he looked like Lamar Jackson. Of course, it
Yeah.
was against us. But then
Yeah.
every other game that year, he just wasn't really that good, and he gets hurt. So I mean, it's hard to judge the Bears.
Yeah.
I think it's I think it's a two-headed race between the Lions and the Vikings. I think the safer bet is to just go ahead and go with the Vikings, but
Can't go wrong with
I
that.
would not doubt the Lions. Did I
Yeah.
see the Patriots cut James Robinson? I did. I saw that they
Ooh.
cut him. It was a like they saved 1.6 million, added it to the cap. They're clearly all in on trying to bring in DeAndre Hopkins. I also think you're right. I think it was injury related. He's been banged up, even though he's a young player. He's had a lot of injuries. And also, a lot of people forget that New England still has Ty Montgomery on their roster. He
Oh
played
God.
one game last year, scored a touchdown, and then didn't play again the rest of the season. Uh, but apparently, the Patriots are very high on him as a receiving back and just as like a veteran leader in that uh, that positional group. So I think that also plays into it. So not a big deal. I don't think cutting James Robinson was all that crazy.
Yeah.
Uh, but moving into our next division, NFC South.
Ooh.
Again, I think now that Tommy Boy, Tom
Yeah.
Brady, now that he is retired, uh, we don't know what the hell to expect. It's obviously not a
Yeah.
shoehorn. I mean, even when Brady was there last year, the Bucks hardly won that division.
Yeah.
Uh, and now Atlanta definitely got better. I will say that they go
Yeah.
and they hired or their head coach is the former offensive coordinator from the Titans who had Jonnu
Yeah.
Smith get a big contract in free agency. They go and actually trade for Jonnu Smith for like a seventh round pick from New England.
It's probably gonna kill it.
So him and Kyle
Kyle
Pitts
Pitts.
together, that could be an interesting tight end
Yeah.
duo for sure. And then the Falcons, they lost Calvin Ridley, but he wasn't playing last year anyways.
Yeah.
The Panthers, they drafted Bryce Young, number one, but they got rid of DJ Moore in the process, and they don't have McCaffrey. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell he's going to be working with. Uh,
Yeah.
like
It,
Laviska
yeah.
Shenault. I mean, like I
They
don't know who the hell they
they
have.
signed Adam Thielen,
They did sign Thielen. I forgot
um
about that.
Hayden Hurst, and Miles Sanders.
Right, they
So
got Miles Sanders was like their biggest
and
signing.
DJ Chark. Like
Yeah,
so okay
it's like a
acquisition.
patchwork offense. You don't know what the hell to
Yeah,
expect.
I mean it's this division is literally the definition of mid and a coin flip. I do like the Falcons move like you mentioned, but then it's like I'm not sold on the quarterback. So
Right,
haven't seen enough of him. They did drop a John Robinson, who I think he's gonna be a home run.
I forgot.
Um,
Yeah, Bijan
he's
Robinson is gonna be a
I mean,
stud.
yeah, he can do it all. He's like a Saquon, but like, yeah, and he's fresh. And then the Saints, they picked up Derek Carr. My friend Brent here is a Saints fan. We'll see. Um, if I had a pick,
I would say Saints.
yeah, well, the only reason I'm gonna give Tampa a chance still
I feel that their defense.
only is the defense, and they still have really good weapons. Um, even despite like Brady being gone and Fournette, like they do have like still Evans and Godwin. I mean, that's the best weapons in the division.
Right.
I saw if Baker's a quarterback, they will be the 4th seed. It's not even a question. But I saw some reports. He was a former Eagle. If Carson Wentz goes to the Bucks,
That would be
I would give him a
interesting.
chance. Just because, like, in terms of talent, he has probably the most. I mean, he's 6'5". He has a strong arm, and if he had a good weapons and a good system around him, I think he could be decent. He has to work on the turnovers. It's always been his biggest flaw.
Yep.
But the Saints are probably the safest option. I'm gonna also go with the Saints, but I'm gonna keep Tampa as a sleeper one.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it just comes down to a guy like Alvin Kamara is just so dynamic. As long as he doesn't get hurt, bringing Derek Carr in, I mean, for the Saints, that's a good signing, I would say.
Yeah,
Um, I
it is.
think because I never thought he was like the problem for Las Vegas or anything like
No,
that.
I didn't think so either.
Um, and he's had some really good years. I think that finally gives the Saints some quarterback stability, which they have not had since Drew Brees retired, because they've been bouncing between Taysom Hill and Andy
Oh
Dalton and
yeah,
Jameis
James
Winston.
Winston. Yeah.
So I think this will finally be like something that helps them calm things down a little bit on that side of the ball. But no, I think this is by far probably the worst division in
Oh, the
football,
worst.
and I
Mhm.
wouldn't be
Yeah.
shocked. Yeah, like you said, Nick, whoever clinches is gonna still be below 500. I wouldn't be shocked if that's true.
Yep, that could be possible.
Uh,
Um,
and that just leaves the NFC West.
pretty easy answer. Just gonna go with San Fran. But
Yep,
thing is like they have a quarterback carousel too. I mean,
they do.
Trey Lance and Purdy off injuries. You don't know what to expect from them. Obviously, one of the most talented rosters. That's not a discussion. But and then you have Sam Darnold, who he hasn't figured it out yet. But apparently the coaches like him. So I have no idea who's going to start for them. It might not even matter because that roster's that talented. Um, but I do expect like the Rams to have a bounce back season. I don't think you go from Super Bowl to 5-12 to like being terrible again. They should get
Yeah,
healthy again. Um, Cardinals are gonna be awful, and then the Seahawks, they're good. I mean,
they are.
they're
They're a
I
sleeper
like
team in that division. I think
I,
just
I like
because just. I mean, I think you're right. I think the 49ers, for the most part, are talented enough that who cares who's playing
yeah
quarterback? They
yeah
should be just fine. But Seattle, I mean, Pete Carroll's doing a hell of a job coaching that team. They've
yes
got a very talented offense. Geno Smith, I mean, if last year wasn't a fluke and he can keep
and he's
playing at that
good.
level, they're a good team.
Yeah, and their weapons. I mean, they have obviously DK and Tyler Lockett, but then they drafted arguably the best receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yep.
I mean,
Let's not
that's
forget they got our boy Derek.
yeah, Derek from Middle Creek.
Shout
I mean,
out.
he's like their wide receiver 4. I mean, they're loaded. Then they still have Kenneth Walker as a talented rookie, and they drafted a running back. I mean, this team they've been drafting well. The coach is obviously amazing. So I think they're definitely going to make the playoffs division. It's definitely between them and San Fran, but I'm just going to lean San Fran just because overall
Yep.
sheer talent,
Yeah, I think that's a
they
safe
have that
bet.
edge for
Yeah.
sure.
So, okay. So, we didn't know we were going to be talking NFL divisions, but I'm glad we did because it really does show that there's a lot of. In the AFC, I feel like it's like each division except for one, it's like obvious. And then in the NFC, it's like you don't know what the hell to expect because there's a lot of divisions that got worse this year. And the AFC is where like every best quarterback in the league is at right now. So it makes things really tough. Uh, but transitioning from sports to esports here, Call of Duty, an esport that Vincent here was definitely a prodigy in when we were in high school. It was very possible that instead of Rocky B trades, he would be, I don't know, Rocky B
Yeah,
games. I don't know. This
yeah.
kid, I mean, he was a stud at Call of Duty,
Oh man,
and we
watching.
both have a lot of love for the game. We've been playing it forever,
Yeah,
keeping up with competitive for a long time,
yeah.
and I mean, I'm a little more intertwined with it. I write for Breaking Point, and get to cover the Call of Duty League. We both did compete at a LAN this year,
That was
Major One
fun.
in Raleigh. I've
That was
got the
really
pass
cool.
from it right here. I
That was
got it.
cool.
Yeah, that shit was awesome, bro.
That was cool. That was an experience.
That
Uh,
was.
that was
But yeah, I mean, COD Champs. We were talking about it a little bit before the show started. Um, and it blew Vincent away actually because the format has changed so much. Call of Duty League has gone from just like anyone is competing to being a franchise league. There's only 12 official teams, only 8 qualified for champs, which for Vincent was, I mean, that was crazy because I mean you used to have like 50, 60 teams competing
yeah,
at champs.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, going into it, it really is gonna be a lot of fun. It starts tomorrow. First matches start at 3 p.m. Eastern. What up, Dane? Uh,
What's up, Dane?
it's gonna be a lot of fun. If you've never watched esports or anything like that, I highly suggest at least giving it a try, checking it out. There's gonna be a lot of great matches. The teams to watch, like we said before, Optic, Optic Texas, Atlanta FaZe, Toronto Ultra, Los Angeles Thieves, and New York Subliners. I'd say those are the 5 that are most likely to make some noise at this tournament. Um, but how I was gonna say, how would you describe watching an esport like Call of Duty? Because obviously, compared to watching regular sports, it's it's a lot different, but I'd say it's still very entertaining.
I would say if you've never watched esports before, it actually is very, very entertaining, and I can see why like this space is gonna grow and only continue to grow. Obviously, I'm only really familiar with Call of Duty because that's the one that I played, but to be a professional gamer, it's no slouch. Like you got to put in a lot of time. There's so many things that go into it. I mean, there's strategy, communication, team morale, like actually having chemistry with your teammates. There's a lot that goes into it. Adjusting to new rules in the game or new weapons and things like that. So I think if you've never watched it, it's actually worth tuning into because the crowd is really really into it. It's a very passionate. Call of Duty Champs is very big time of the year. It's like the Super Bowl of Call of Duty gaming, and I think esports as a whole is going to continue to grow. And I think it's really cool to see because, I first started playing in 2017, it was much smaller. I knew more players back then, but it's cool to see the skill gap has really gotten tighter, but like the amount of talent in today's game is off the charts. I mean, it's cool seeing 18-year-old kids, just competing, living their dream and making a ton of money and being really good at what they do. So I think that's cool. And how these, teams are representing cities, which is also cool. So I guess maybe we can do predictions. And
Yeah,
if you have a prediction, let's hear it because Drew is a writer for CDL, or he's a writer for Breaking Point, which they're affiliated with Call of Duty. You're in the
yeah,
scene, I'd say. And if you have a prediction,
yeah.
let's
I'm
let's
going
hear it.
ahead. I'm pulling up the bracket real quick just so I don't like get any of the matchups wrong here. Uh, all right, so it is a very interesting situation we have uh, because some of the teams going into this like Optic Texas going into this tournament before the most recent major tournament we had, they were like a clear favorite, and then they went and got top 12 or last place essentially at the most recent tournament. And so now all of a sudden you're like, what the hell? Like, what do we expect from them? Uh, I think Atlanta FaZe is definitely a team that is gonna be competing either. I mean, they're gonna get top 3 minimum. I think is a safe bet. That's literally what they've done at
Yeah,
every
sure.
event. Those 3: Celium, Simp, and Abizi. Uh, since the CDL, like I think their average placement is like second. So them getting top 3 is very much a sure thing. Um, I think that Optic. They have the setup to make a run and go ahead and win this thing. Uh, they've got a favorable matchup in the first round, taking on Boston Breach, who have a get this. They made a substitute before champs, so now a kid
Wow.
who has not played in the CDL yet
Wow.
will be playing his very first match on LAN at champs against Optic. Like
That's a
that is
lot.
the in most
Lot.
like it is the most insane circumstances to be making
Yeah.
your debut.
That's a lot of
And
pressure.
so I don't know what to expect from that. I think Optic wins that. Uh, and then the next matchup for them would be against New York or Minnesota, assuming it's New York. They've played against them very well. New York technically did have the best regular season in the sense that they won 2 of the 5 events, um, but they didn't do very well at the other 3. Um, if Optic can then win that matchup, then their biggest hope, surprisingly, would be to then face off against Atlanta FaZe in the winners finals because for whatever reason, Atlanta has been so dominant all year against every single team except Optic. I don't know why. It is the weirdest thing. Like they just can't seem. It's like a mental thing. They cannot seem to beat them. So if Optic can get that winners finals matchup against Atlanta FaZe, it's very likely Optic then goes and places in the grand finals. Uh, they have the talent, they have what it takes. It's just so hard to judge them because, like, obviously they're the most popular team. They always have the most, like, storylines and hype around them. I mean, you know that even when they were still just competing as Optic Gaming. Um, and the fact of the matter is, as an organization, they've only ever won one time at COD Champs. Even in all the years that they've had, the Dynasty team and just had a lot of talent. So it's hard to like shoehorn them in as the expected winner of this event. Um, I think, like I said, I think a safer bet is just to go with Atlanta FaZe just because they've had just so much consistent success. And honestly, it'd
Yeah.
be kind of cool to see a guy like Slasher go and get a ring for. I think it would be a second. It would be his second COD Champs ring, first
Yep.
since he won it in Black Ops 3 or
Max
whatever
three.
that was.
Yep.
So I mean, it'd be cool, that long of a gap between the two, but for such a talented player, um, I think it'd be cool to see. I think, like I said, the CDL loves it because the 3 teams that are like the biggest, most passionate fan bases are the team associated with Optic Gaming, the team associated with FaZe Clan, and the team associated with 100 Thieves. And all 3 of those teams are very much in the running to potentially win this thing. So it really is, in terms of a viewership and ratings perspective, it's going to do wonders for them.
I agree. I agree. I'd say probably the championship does go down to those 3, and it is cool that for the league, you could say it's like the 3 best teams are the biggest brands. You got,
Exactly.
you could really say, I mean, obviously not like as much as like the NBA, but like Boston Celtics and Lakers, like that's like
Right.
Atlanta, and that's like the FaZe Clan and Optic.
I mean, they literally call it whenever they
That's
face
the
off,
rivalry.
they call it E Clasico, like
Yeah,
because like
yeah.
whenever what was it, Real Madrid and Barcelona take off, they call
Oh
that El
yeah.
Clasico. They call
Hmm.
this matchup E Clasico because it's the 2 biggest brands, at least in Call of Duty.
Yeah.
It's been that way for longer than a decade now.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean it's gonna be cool to see if we can get a matchup like that for the grand finals. I think it'd be really cool to
Yeah.
see.
I'm gonna, I guess for my prediction, I haven't been following it as much. I'm going to this weekend, but I'm gonna go with the LA Thieves. I think that'd be really cool to see, just because I remember when Nate Shot started LA Thieves. I'm a huge fan of his. He started like 6 years ago, and just to see where that brand is at now. Obviously, he's one of the biggest esport Call of Duty competitors ever. Inspired a lot of young kids, and I just love what he's done as for the brand. And then the team itself, I actually am familiar with a lot of these guys. I think Kenny, he always steps up in big time games,
Oh yeah,
matches. a great sub player. Octane has always been a steady AR. Envoy. I mean, he's played for Optic before, so I'm gonna go for LA Thieves. But if it's some other team, obviously they'll be well deserved. Even like Toronto, that could be cool. If
They're
like,
a. I mean, yeah,
I mean,
Toronto is. It's cool because,
yeah,
uh,
I
I
mean
mean,
Scrappy.
Scrappy
I
is
like that
a
kid.
lot of people are considering him like the next man up in terms of like who's going to be the face of the league, just
Yeah,
because he is a very high intensity, talk shit,
no, I like that. I
but he's
like
also
that.
very talented.
No, he's good. He's good. He's a
And
nice pro.
Toronto was one of the teams that won an event this year. They actually beat Optic at Optic's home event, so that was cool. But no, I think your pick of the LA Thieves, honestly, it's a very solid pick because, like you said, Kenny always turns up at the biggest stage. Octane has played like one of the best ARs all year. Uh,
Yeah, he's
and
steady.
then Envoy is, he's a very talented SMG as well. And Draza honestly has had some big moments. I know you're a little less familiar with him because he's more of a newer player. But he's really taking on that like villain role in the league. Like so many people hate him because he just has like a fuck it we ball kind of mentality. Um, and like the crowd hates him, but like the LA Thieves fan base loves him. Uh, but actually, it really would be a cool thing because in all of Call of Duty esports, we have never had a repeat champion back to back. We've had people make it back to back years, but we've never had an organization win in back to back years. And LA Thieves did win COD champs in 2022 for the
That's
Vanguard
right.
season. So if they were to go on and win COD champs here for MW2, they would be the first ever organization to go back to back. And all the players are returning
Mm,
from last year's team. So it'd be really cool to see.
that would be insane. That would be insane to see that. But who knows? Because Atlanta has just. I mean, their squad is amazing, and then Slasher too. He's really good. So whoever comes out on top is gonna be well deserved, and it's gonna be great for the league if it's one of those three. But even if it's not, even if it's like a smaller team, kind of being like a Denver or LA or
Right,
a Vegas
exactly.
of
Like
the
we
of
just saw
the,
with
the other
the.
leagues.
Yep.
So that'd be pretty solid.
But yeah,
That would be
so
fun.
that, like I said, that all kicks off tomorrow at 3 o'clock. You can watch on Twitch or YouTube on the Call of Duty channels. You can also watch. There's people doing watch parties. If you know who Scump is, if you know anyone in esports, it's probably Scump. He does watch parties. You can go watch from his perspective, but highly suggest it. But moving on to our last topic of the night, we're going to be talking a little bit just about spy in general. We didn't really have any like overbearing like topic like we did last week when we discussed the like artificial intelligence boom that was going on. That was right before that big Apple event where they revealed the goggles, the face mask, whatever you want to call it, the VR
Yeah,
headset.
yeah.
But what are some things like what are some patterns that you've been seeing this week that maybe are out of the ordinary or just anything that you've seen from a news perspective that has taken off? I'd love to hear what you've been keeping an eye on.
Yeah. Well, the market, has really traded higher. It's been, obviously great to see for a lot of long-term investors for the last probably 4 to 6 weeks at this point. Nice start to the summer. I've noticed a lot of growth stocks have been, seeing some runs. Like a lot of investors are really not worried, I guess, right now with like the whole interest rates thing and stuff and inflation. So this week, actually on Tuesday, the inflation readout, the report is 4%. And the everybody's expectation was 4.1%, so the market saw a rally up that. Obviously, that means that's good. The interest rates rising are lowering inflation, which is the Federal Reserve's goal. People want to get their purchasing power to have more value again. And with that said, in the short term, a lot of stocks have seen moves to the upside. And today, the news was that the Federal Reserve is pausing interest rate hikes momentarily. So who knows? Maybe for like a month or two, and then they'll resume it. Um, and their inflation goal is still to get down to 2%, um, which will probably happen at the end of the year, early next year. But in the meantime, it still seems like Bulls are in full control until proven otherwise because the market has been trading higher. It's been um, pretty fun to see because for the longest, a lot of it was downside a lot of last year and early of this year. So big moves so far in the market, but for Bulls, it's looking good, which everybody likes to make money that way when the market's going up.
Right, I was gonna say it does help when the market for periods of time where it's kind of just trending in one direction because we all know for the most part it's a freaking you see a stock chart and that thing's up and down like crazy, but you get these moments like this where things just seem to be going up. Uh, I've noticed it with my like Vincent was saying with long term investments. With mine, I've noticed for the most part, pretty much everything has been on an uptrend. A lot of it comes down to Apple. Shout out to them. But overall, no, I mean it's been an interesting time, just because there is still that like interest rate, the federal interest rate thing that we're like we have no idea what the hell's going on, and then obviously the what do you call it the what's the word I'm looking for? If
Inflation,
that's what I'm looking for, the
interest
inflation.
rates.
Yes. Like all of that. Like it's just so freaking like up in the
Confusing.
air right now and
It's confusing.
confusing.
Yeah.
No one knows what's really going on. But obviously those are things that have a big impact on the stock market overall and are important to pay attention to.
Yeah, I agree. But in the meantime, just just being cautious, as long-term investors, obviously, you don't want to maybe chase something or, just continue to do your research and, if you think the opportunity is there, okay. If not, it's okay to just sit on the sidelines, because personally, I have no idea what the market holds. For the future, obviously no one can predict it, but for now, it looks like we're just going to be leaning upside until the Bulls kind of step away. But I think that covers all the topics we wanted to
Yeah.
hit tonight. Shout out to anybody who came by. I mean, or asked a question. That was awesome.
Yeah, we
And
appreciate that a lot.
yeah, no, we appreciate that a lot. But Drew, if you want to go ahead and wrap things up, and then catch you guys in the next episode.
Yeah, I mean, again, thank you all so much for tuning in live. The episode, like last time, will be going up. The VOD of it will be going up on my YouTube channel. Um, but we appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. So just to kind of rehash everything, we did some coverage of the NBA and NHL finals. We had chat wanted us to dive into some NFL topics. We went through our picks for each division. We covered COD Champs, which is coming up starting tomorrow, and then we just ended things off with a little bit of just general market analysis. There wasn't really any big news to cover this week, but of course, as anything presents itself for future episodes, we will of course be diving into it. But we appreciate y'all so much for tuning in, and this has been another episode of Got Your Trade, where we cover sports, we cover gaming, and we cover investing, and we've always got your trade no matter what. We appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
Guys, have a good one. I'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Yes, sir.